Guillermo ba yung first name niya? May babala siya sa mga tiwaling pulis. You will hate me. Yan yung sabi ni PNP chief. You will hate me daw. Kaka-assume lang niya with the retirement of General Sinas. Ito, paano ba natin i-anggulo ito, ha? Second top news of the week. How can we angle this one? Ito na lang, ganito lang. Ang ganda ng pagkasulat ng ating production team. Sabi dito, top news of the week. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said he is now ready to meet retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio in a debate over the West Philippine Sea. Ganda yung news. Ready na daw sa spokesperson Harry Roque to meet with Supreme Court Justice retired Antonio Carpio. Biglang nag-trending yung pangalan ng Carpio. Biglang palaging napag-usapan si Supreme Court Chief Justice Carpio, ha? Kaya tuloy sa survey, number 1 Carpio daw sa presidential bulls. Wala. Sara Duterte Carpio pala yun. Hindi si Supreme Court Chief Justice, retired Chief Justice, Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Ito, pangatlong top news of the week. Sabi ng IATF, may updated current resolution sila about the travel protocols. Ito, all incoming passengers regardless of vaccination status are now subject to 14-day mandatory quarantine. Yan, hirap ng mga OFW nito. Uuwi ka kasi sana makapiling mo yung pamilya mo. Mandatory na yung uli yung 14-day quarantine. Tapos the 10-day should absolutely be in facility-based quarantine. Tapos testing on the 7th day. Ang hirap pag-uwi ng mga returning overseas Filipino workers. 14-day, maubos yung oras mo doon sa quarantine. Ito, medyo interesting news din ito. From CNN Philippines, sabi ni Senador Gordon, availing of COVID-19 vaccine through the Philippine Red Cross. Pwede na pala. Hindi ko alam. Pero sabi dito sa news item, hindi pa siguro. Kasi sabi ni Senator Gordon, darating daw ang in-order nilang Moderna vaccine, pati yung AstraZeneca. Nag-order pala ba ang Red Cross? Ngayong July. So sabi ni Gordon, each dose daw may cost pag nagpabakuna through PRC, ewan ko, pag sila yung nagbakuna, di ba? Government naman ngayon ang ongoing vaccination. Sabi ni Senator Gordon, each dose in PRC cost around 2,000 pag through PRC yung vaccination. Philippine Red Cross. Darating daw yung Moderna, pati yung AstraZeneca ngayong July. Yan. Ito, interesting news ito. Is tuli, you know what tuli is? Is that tuli is circumcision. Yan. Is it essential during this pandemic? Essential ba yan? Yan. Sabi ng Cebu City Emergency Operations Command, AOC, head na si Councilor Joel Garganera, Operation Toli is not yet allowed. So, dumadami na naman yung, sabi dito sa Sunstar News, pisot talaga yung term, pisot boys are aplenty as EOC has not yet allowed the holding of circumcision in the city during the pandemic kasi daw, unlike lugaw, di ba, lugaw is essential, tuli is not essential daw amid the pandemic kasi it would be very hard to follow health protocol kasi magsisigaw ng kakaiyak yung mga bata during tuli. On the other hand, Mayor Labilla issued an executive order now lifting the liquor ban in Cebu City. Happy days naman. Ito, last two news of the week. Bago tayo maubusan ng oras, ito. First, ano bang i-news natin? Ito na lang. May news ba tayo kay production team kay Sir Gerald Anderson? Palagi na lang Gerald Anderson. Ito, sabi ng Manila Bulletin. Maha Salvador recalls toxic relationship. Bakit ito napasali? Recalls toxic relationship with Gerald Anderson. Gapang daw siya, nawala daw siya. Remember, Maha Anderson was the best friend of Kim Chiu. Di ba si Kim Chiu nagiging ex din ni Gerald Anderson? So, nawalan daw ng commercial si Maha Salvador. In the meantime, si Gerald Anderson ang dali daw nakabangon. And last news of the week is, ayan, Derek Ramsey or Ellen Adarna. Bakit ito napasali production team? Ellen Adarna, winelcome ho ang nani Derek Ramsey doon sa bahay. Tsunami turong nagtatuloy. Are they living together? Sabi ni Ellen, yes, I stayed there temporarily because I was supposed to go home. Takot daw yung auntie niya doon kasi going out siya, medyo risk daw yung virus na pa. So, she opted to stay with Derek Ramsey because I want to stay with him. Takot pala sa virus, ha? So, kaya wants to stay with Derek Ramsey, si Miss Elena. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning Bohol, good morning Cebu, good morning Negros Oriental, good morning Siquijor Province. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn over para sa kanyang message. Ito, last week we have had an inspiring message from our regional director about how to move during this pandemic. Moving on, hindi pwedeng naka-stay fix lang tayo. This time, ladies and gentlemen, another reassuring and inspiring message from our regional director. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our regional director, RD Jesse Joy Dr. Lero. Pasok ka di!
Thank you, Torns. Good morning, everyone. Good morning sa mga assessors at sa treasurers natin in Central Visayas. Likewise, good morning sa ating mga viewers nationwide. So welcome to our 25th episode of our Kapihan sa BLG F7 Konsulta kay Attorney Tanika. So later on, meron pong mga principles na i-discuss si attorney with regards to liability, accountability, and responsibility. But before Attorney Tanika will discuss the meat of our discussion for today's episode, allow me to greet our mothers who were celebrating their day yesterday. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. I understand that, yes, our mothers also has their principles applied. Kung meron si attorney na liability, accountability, and responsibility, meron din tayo sa ang mga mothers natin. Okay? I call them TLC, the tender loving care. Okay? So I would just shout out to the mother of my children, okay, who uses also TLC to make a difference to our children. So I remember every time that they will play outside, so I just give permission immediately. But the mother cannot just afford to send them outside and play, but without cautioning them. Yes, you can play. Yes, you may play, but you should take care of yourself. So that is how mother love their children. Likewise, my shout out to my mama. Okay, so I remember my mama before I accept in my position in Cebu as regional director. Sabi niya, sabi ni Papa, we're supporting you. We are behind you. Sabi ni Mama, yes, we are supporting to your dreams, okay, and aspirations. But remember, do not just rely on your wits. Okay? Please remember to trust God, to ask God wisdom. Okay? Every time you do something, because God is more powerful than you are. So thank you so much, Mother. So sa lahat ng mga mother honored, okay? So thank you for giving us the TLC, the tender loving care. So meantime, so we will relate, okay, yung pag-uusapan ni attorney with my message. Okay, so I have 10 things to do, especially, okay, at this time of pandemic, because as a department head, as assessor, or as treasurers, we have to define our role, okay, versus the reality. Okay, let's give hope, okay, to our employees, because in crisis like this, engagement matters. Okay? And our employees, clients, our taxpayers are a tremendous source of our strength and consistency, which is even more evident, especially at this time of torn down. Okay? So first and foremost, yung first that you need to do, okay? So you have to frequent, you have to be consistent with regards to your personal communication, because there is no such thing as over communication, okay? Because there are things are changing fast, and as leaders, as assessors, as department head in your respective LGUs, you must connect with your employees, okay, in real time, okay, as real people, because Candor is especially valuable as everyone honesty radar is on high alert. Okay, so as leader, you are responsible. You have the responsibility to your subordinates. All right. So another thing that I would like you to remember is that at this time of pandemic, you have to put health and safety at the top of the agenda. Okay, especially that the IATF, just like yung top news presented by our host, Attorney Tanyika, that there are changing, there are varying instruction from IATF, and we have to put health and safety of our employees at the top of our agenda. Because remember, we are liable also in any event that our employees, okay, based on our judgment and our decisions. Okay. So another thing that you should remember at this time of pandemic is that you have to be realistic about the promise and the reality of technology. Okay, we know that digital technology provides employees with lifelines for connection and productivity in an isolating time. But today's technology causes also frustrations almost as often as it elevates. Okay? Minsan nagagalit tayo kasi mahina yung connectivity natin. Minsan nawawala tayo sa mga meeting na pinag-atenderan natin. So we have to understand, we have to be realistic that there are times, okay, that we cannot connect. Okay? And as a leader, okay, we have the responsibility to inform our employees, to our clientele, that there are times that we cannot do our job because of those failure. Okay? So hindi ibig sabihin na meron na po tayong technology so hindi na nag-fail. So minsan there are lapses also. Okay. So another thing that you should remember as head or as department head or assessor in your respective is that you have to take employees' personal challenges seriously and provide true resources. Of course, because there are many employees that are not surface, that their complaints will not surface because they just silently have their struggle. Okay, hindi nila pinapakita na they have also a personal struggle. Okay, being clear about resources can break invisible logjam. Meaning to say, as leader, we have to as our employer, we have to proactivity about helping with personal challenges to our employees, okay? Because it will make a game changer or a time of heavy mental load, okay? So another thing is that you have to rethink time management and rearrange the workday if needed, okay? So alam natin yan. So minsan nag-arrange tayo yung work from home, okay? Kahit na gusto natin yung output to be delivered by working at the office, but time is really sparing our employees because the health and protection of our employees is more paramount. So another thing that you should remember is that you have to hone in on what's critical and what can wait. So there are times you have to really exercise your judgment. So ano ba yung mas kailangan, yung mas priority over the others? Kung hindi man lang kailangan, you have to set aside that because let's go back to our principle na pag-usapan nito. We have the responsibility, we have the liability should there arise problem with our employees. So likewise, we have to acknowledge the employees' experiences may be different and ever-changing. So that is why in BLGF 7, we have been sharing stories through this platform, to this online kapihan. Now we are deviating again to the regular programming, and our production team headed by Attorney Tanika is now looking how we can deliver best our program so that we can touch, we can access, we can reach out to our treasurers and assessors. And believe me, Attorney Tanika and the rest of production team will have in store surprises for the next episode. Please hold on to that and please join us again. Okay? Your feedback is very, very important to us because from your feedback, we also learn our lesson and we can improve our services to all of you. Another is that we have to address rewards and performance metrics. Okay? So actually, we have scheduled sana for our awarding for the most inspiring treasurers and assessors, and also the best performer for 2019. Okay, however, we have to set aside, okay, those, because we still prioritize the health and safety of our treasurers and assessors in Central Visayas. And of course, we have to acknowledge and tackle the gap in informal interaction, because we want to continue to drive new ways of problem solving. Okay? So let's take note that your host, Attorney Tanika, tingnan nyo yung akala nyo we are showing off the very expensive shades of Attorney Tanika when he made the video. But you know what? That is one way of igniting you. That is one way of saying that this is our way of devising, okay, problem solving. So akala nyo it's just about responsibility, accountability, and so, but it's all about the shades. Tama, Torns?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we want to reduce, yes, we want to reduce formal interaction with our employees, because I understand we have been doing the meeting gaps, like the calls, the emails, the text, chats, and so on. So minsan, yan, look at the shades, okay? The magic of that shades, ha? So your host, Attorney Tanika, is very, very open to receiving emails, your queries. Wala pong oras na hinihindian si attorney. Pag he can receive your text, your calls right away. Ganun po yung serbisyo ng DLGF7. So, and finally, perhaps the most important one is we have to give people a voice. So that is why this platform, okay, we have been calling our assessor and treasurer to share your views, okay, to comment your expertise, okay, to share to your brothers and sisters in the assessment and treasury services. Whatever you can also help, okay, others. So with that, Torns, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your comment, your participation in this program. Thank you, Torns, and good morning, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was RD, Director JC Joy Dr. Lero. Ayan, magiging regular. Out pa talaga yung shades ko, kaya kinall out ko. Okay. Magiging regular na yung mga reassuring at sa mga motivational messages ng ating regional director. That is also our touching base with you in the field na sinasabi namin nandito lang kami. Ayan. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture mayroon na tayong maraming early viewers dyan sa ating FB page live natin streaming. Para hindi magtampo, pasadahan ulit agad natin ang mga pa-shoutout. Mga sigaw palabas galing sa kakabagong make-up lang. May make-up artist na rin sila dyan. Kung kami mayroong production team, mayroon silang exclusive make-up artist. Baka naman tatanggap na kayo ng sponsorship galing from cosmetic companies dyan. Ladies and gentlemen, ang ating co-host, ang Chief ng Treasury Division, si Miss John Ann Abilia. Pasok na.
Hello, good morning. Isa na naman pong masayang Monday sa lahat and Happy Mother's Day sa lahat ng mga inang, nanay, mamang, at mommy sa universe. Welcome po sa ating masaya at makabuluhang 25th episode ng Online Kapihan sa BLGF7. Napaka-interesting po ng topic natin ngayon, liability, accountability, at responsibility. Pero bago po ang lahat, gusto ko pong i-shout out si Attorney Regal M. Oliva, ang City Treasurer ng Mandaue, si Engineer Xerxes F. Risuena, yung kasama namin dati na ngayon ay isa ng kontraktor.
Accountable person din yung supply officer natin dati.
Accountable siya noon kasi siya yung supply officer, ngayon kontraktor na siya, attorney. And happy birthday po kay Sir Don Daes, ang Chief ng Local Assessment Operations Division ng Central Office. Isang magandang umaga po, Sir Don. At shout out!
Yan pala si Sir Don. Nanonood kaya sa atin yan? Tanong namin ni RD pag nagkita kami sa una. Nanonood kaya sa atin si Sir Don, RD?
Parang nanonood kasi nagpa-shout out. Okay.
Happy
Go
birthday, Sir
ahead,
Don.
go
Happy
ahead.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
So yung
Greetings po. Sabi po ni Ma'am Lucel Vios Orlina, yung Municipal Assessor ng San Juan Siquijor. Good morning. On standby at San Juan Municipal Assessor's Office. So excited with the 25th episode for additional inputs on liability, accountability, and responsibility. Good day. Watching from Livable San Remigio, sabi naman ni Edna Arboyes.
Livable talaga.
Ito si Ma'am Edna, kaka-take off lang niya na bago na lang siyang municipal treasurer ng San Remigio,
No less
Cebu.
than the regional director took her oath.
Shout out po kay Ray A. Kaluoy ng Cebu, kay Ernesto Rupak, kay Bernadette Tubalia Ubanyana ng Santa Catalina, kay Romel Judy Riosa. Sabi po niya, good morning to all. Watching from LGU Vintar, Ilocos Norte. Ito siya, Attorney RD. Palagi, sukiin na natin ito. Palagi ito siyang nanonood. At saka si Ma'am LB Manos, ang Municipal Assessor ng Larena. Isang good morning everyone from the town that is shining. San Fernando shines, sabi ng Municipal Treasurer ng San Fernando na si Sir Edsel Lagoda. Back to you, Attorney.
Thank you, Miss Jonah Nabela. Happy Mother's Day na rin sa nanay ko. Kabago lang, nawala yung partner niya. Happy Mother's Day, Mami. At saka sa Happy Mother's Day. Ayan, sample na natin yan. Tanong natin, we have previewed so much of our teaser, di ba? Sabi natin, topic for today is accountability, responsibility, and liability. Let's get right into it. Yung hanging situational cases natin, 3 yun na, di ba? Naka-MR sa iyo ang cellphone, nawala mo kasi na-pickpocket. Pangalawa, pinahiram ng treasurer yung laptop doon sa focal person, nawala ni focal person. Pangatlo, collection, nawala. Either ginamit or na-rob, whatever the situation may be, sinong liable? So in the 3 instances, in the 3 scenarios that I have given, who are the accountable persons? Who are considered the responsible persons? At saka pag na-identify na ba natin na itong person na to is responsible officer or itong person na to is accountable officer, automatic ba yung liable? At saka ang pinakahanging question pa rin, yung findings ng ating kuha na sinasabing liable si treasurer, liable si ganito, ganyan, ibig sabihin ba yan? Administratively liable ka na rin? Yan. So that is what we will be discussing for today. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed with that topic, kailangan kong i-share muna itong discussion na ito. Thank you, production team, for allowing me to share my screen. As a prelude for my discussion for today's topic, we promise this is just a 1 hour episode. By the way, disclaimer ulit, generic friendly discussion, wala pong kinalaman ng aming biro, at saka these are just mere restating of what are stated in the Supreme Court rulings at saka yung mga manuals at saka provisions of the law. Ladies and gentlemen, our regional director have encouraged you to please comment, share kung ano yung mga kuro-kuro niyan in our comment section. But we will not entertain, however, actual cases kasi nga baka masubjudice tayo. Yung mga actual cases nyo po, huwag nyong itanong dito kasi baka iba yung ating masabi, applying the principles that we are stating here, we are sharing here, iiba ring appreciation ng whatever, ng COA, ng court, ng ombudsman, whatever. So, kanya-kanya kasing set of particular facts yan. So, whatever we are discussing here, maybe generic principle, there may be particular facts that are wanting to your particular case, so hindi mag-a-apply. So you cannot quote us on what we are saying. Nasabi kasi ni ganito, ganyan, ganito, ganyan kasi. So again, this is just a generic friendly discussion. First, why are we discussing accountability, responsibility, and liability? Of course, this administrative discipline and this principle on accountability and responsibility and liability springs from the very constitutional provision and principle, as a matter of fact, na sinasabing public office is a public trust. Public office, a public trust. And, teka muna, tumawag si Miss Jun andito sa ating group chat. Ayan, na-cancel tuloy. We are just a mere agent of the people and not ruler of the people. And we accept our office pursuant to the provision of law and holds the office as a public trust for whom we represent. Therefore, kailangan tayong responsible, accountable towards the people. If ever na-breach natin yung trust na binigay ng ating public sa atin, we are not worthy of the office that we have. The administrative proceeding, sabi ko nga noong teaser natin sa previous opposite, is not necessarily after the imposing of penalty or imposing of discipline against erring public officials. But what it is after is that it is after of winning out mga public officers na hindi karapat-dapat doon sa trust na binigay ng publiko sa kanila. Para ang matitira na lang na public officers dito sa government or service ay yung worthy of the trust of the people, yung mga efficient at effective public officers. Yun yung principle ng public office is a public trust. Ito, i-share ko muna ito before I proceed with the responsibility, accountability, and liability. Remember, we were mandatory yung salin natin submission. Kailan ba yung nag-deadline? Deadline na yata. I will not quote the title or the caption of the case kasi as a matter of personal deference na rin ito kasi kilala ko, mentor ko kasi yung parties of the civil case of the case na ito. Umabot ng Supreme Court at saka ang gandang studihan ng principle na in-establish dito. I will just cite the citation, itong CGR number 221153. This is na available sa Supreme Court public record naman kasi. So I will not just hindi ko sasabihin kung sino or ano yung caption kasi I barely know. Good morning. Shout out sa kanya. Okay. Mandatory daw yung salin. Ang purpose daw ng salin inline pa rin ng wala daw makita ng screen. How about that? Wala daw makita sa screen ko. Stop ko muna yung share screen. Sinabihan ako ng production team, hindi makita yung aking screen. Okay. How about that? Siguro pwede na. If ever hindi pa rin makita, feedback muna sa production team, makita na ba yung screen ko? Wala pa daw. So, I will have, okay. I-email ko na lang daw sa kanila yung presentation. Okay, makaya na daw. Okay. Sige, babasahin ko na lang muna yung principle na sinasabi. Okay, magpa-greetings muna tayo kasi may technical problems daw. Apparently, although I can see my screen, but the Facebook page live hindi daw makikita yung share screen ko. So, i-email ko sa production team, tapos sila na yung bahala mag-screen. In the meantime, balikan natin yung mga pasigaw palabas, pa-shout out ng ating mga viewers as early as now at saka mga pag-greetings. Nay, standby muna ako dito, ay i-email ko muna ito. Pasok, Nay.
Okay, attorney. Habang inaayos pa yung screen ni attorney, isa munang sigaw palabas para kay Jose Alicante ng Toledo City, kay Nisa Alusilio Cuevas, the Municipal Treasurer of Alegria, Cebu, kay Ma'am Eva De Leon, ang Municipal Treasurer ng Daan Bantayan, Cebu, kay Arlene Chari Puntenes, ang Municipal Treasurer ng Amla Negros Oriental. Sigaw palabas pa rin po kay Jara Sapanta ng Toledo City, kay Lerio de los Reyes Bantasan, isang top fan from Sibunga, Cebu, kay Colin Andales Noynay, ang Acting Municipal Treasurer ng Medellin, Cebu, kay Nem Razo Guarin ng Baclayon Assessor's Office, kay Julie Santos, sigaw palabas, shout out pa rin, kay Intes si Julina ng Toledo City, kay Lawrence Velasquez Taka. Hi, Sir Lawrence, thank you for watching. isang shout-out daw na pagkalakas-lakas para kay Glovit Lazarte Hilongo, kay Lilibet Ignacio Disoso ng LGU Sebaste Antique. This is from Region 6. Isang sigaw palabas pa rin para sa Acting Municipal Treasurer ng Madrid de Cebu, kay Jen Formentera, kay Cirilo Amazuna, ang Acting Municipal Treasurer ng Dalaget, kay Ma'am Eileen Coliflores Parado, Municipal Treasurer of Consolacion Cebu, kay Bingbing Fontanosa, kay Cesar Palmasabas Jr. ng Danao City Assessor's Office. Shout out para kay Emma Go, kay Edwin Villanueva, kay Sid Caballero, kay Sara Mitante, kay Ana Teresa Balani, at isang napakalakas, pinakamalakas sa lakas sa lahat ng shout out kay Ate Brenda Liamedo for my hair and makeup. Thank you, Ate Bren. Torns, ready ka na?
RD, may pa-birthday greetings si RD. Pasok, RD.
Yes, good morning once again. So, before we give the floor to Attorney Tanika, allow me to greet our birthday celebrants for this week. So, production team, do we have the poster of our birthday celebrants for this week? Can we share? All right. So, our friend from Bacong Negros Oriental, the municipal assessor, will be celebrating her birthday. Happy birthday, Ma'am Grace T. Academia. So, from all of us here, the LGF7 family. So, of course, mag-birthday din si Mr. Jaime Sumagang, the Municipal Treasurer Cordoba, Cebu. Malapit lang po sa amin dito yung Cordoba. Okay? Malapit nang matapos yung the third bridge for Mactan and Cebu. So happy birthday, Treasurer Jaime Sumagang. So may you be blessed with good health and prosperity. So next celebrant for this week, we have the happy birthday to Miss Sinaida Diputado, the Municipal Treasurer of Sibulan Negros Oriental. So happy birthday, ma'am. So we wish you well and good health, especially at this time of pandemic. So those are our birthday celebrants for this week. So we, from all of us here, we are sending our well wishes to all of you. May you have a wonderful year ahead. So a blessed birthday to all of you. Thank you and back to you, RD.
Yeah, thank you, RD. Now, ayan, nagawan na ng paraan. Daldal ako ng daldal, hindi nyo pala nakita yung aking share screen presentation. So, sorry for that, yours. Good that we have very energetic at saka medyo uptick din na mga production team. Ayan. Yung sinasabi ko kanina, why we are talking about accountability, responsibility, and liability, because public office is a public trust. So be sure that we are worthy of the trust reposed by us, by the people, to us, by the people. Pag hindi tayo worthy, dapat tanggalin na tayo dyan sa opisinang yaan. Now, earlier, sinasabi ko, worthy of sharing din itong about Salin kasi kakatapos lang natin mag-deadline ng submission of our statement of assets and liabilities and net worth. Pambungad muna na share. Ito, next. Fraction. Next slide. Okay. GR22. Yun muna. Before that one. Atras ng isa. Yan. Medyo na-atras na siguro. Ako siguro yung hindi pa nakapa. Ayan. The requirement of SALIN daw, enshrined by our Constitution, this is still in relation to public offices and public trust, is a deterrent daw. It will serve as a deterrent against government officials bent on enriching themselves through unlawful means. Kaya nga sinasabing ill-gotten or unexplained wealth. Meron pa tayong unexplained poverty. Kung mayroon unexplained wealth, ito. Yang SALIN na daw yan is to suppress any questionable accumulation of wealth because the latter usually results from non-disclosure of such matter. Pag galing daw sa medyo questionable mga sources of income, hindi talaga yan pinapakita. Kaya nga, re-require sa SALIN to state under oath yung assets and liabilities. Next, Jules. However, ito kasi sa nangyaring binasa ko yung citation kanina, GR number, ganyan. Ang nangyari kasi dito sa Supreme Court case na ito, nakalimutan or hindi niya nailagay yung iba niyang pagmamayari. For example, hindi niya nalagay yung kanyang sasakyan. Isang sasakyan, mahalin siguro. At saka yung kanyang shares of stocks in a certain company. I don't know if that was her, but basta sinasabing mayroong shares of stock na hindi daw na i-declare. Now, records reveal that the element of intent to commit a wrong required under administrative offenses of the dishonesty and grave misconduct are lacking. See? Yung intent to commit a wrong daw to hold the respondent liable for dishonesty is one thing daw in this case. Remember, yung nagawa niya, hindi niya na i-include yung kanyang sasakyan at saka yung shares of stock niya doon sa SALIN. Sinasabi ng Supreme Court, no, she is not guilty of dishonesty. Sinasabi ng Supreme Court, dishonesty daw is committed when an individual intentionally, with emphasis intentionally, makes a false statement of any material fact. On the other hand, intentional wrongdoing for purposes of misconduct na offense is a deliberate, kanina intentional, ngayon deliberate violation of the rule of law or standard or behavior. Next. Ayan. Indeed, the failure daw to file a truthful, remember nakalimutan, hindi na i-include yung sasakyan at saka yung shares of stock. The failure to file a truthful SALIN puts in doubt the integrity of a public officer and would normally amount to dishonesty. However, ito na yon. Sabi ng Supreme Court, it should be emphasized that mere non-declaration of the required data in the SALIN, sabi ng Supreme Court yan mere non-declaration of the required data in the statement of assets and liabilities and net worth does not automatically result to such offense of dishonesty and misconduct. Bakit kaya? Remember ang senaryo, nakalimutang mailagay yung sasakyan at saka shares of stock. Intentional ba yon? Deliberate ba yon? Sabi ng Supreme Court, mere failure, mere non-declaration of a required data in SALIN should not be automatically guilty of dishonesty or misconduct. A public officer becomes susceptible of dishonesty only when such non-declaration in our SALIN results in the accumulated wealth becoming manifestly disproportionate to his or her income from other sources which she fails to account. Diba? Sabi natin, unexplained wealth. So, ang hanap pala ng batas, yung unexplained wealth, yung accumulation of unexplained wealth na hindi commensurate doon sa income mo. So, ang sinasabi kasi ng Supreme Court dito sa case na ito, sinasabi, pag ma-explain naman kung saan galing yung sasakyan mo, kung saan galing yung shares of stock mo, hindi yun dapat guilty ka ng dishonesty or misconduct. Remember, the failure must be intentional and deliberate. Ano ba kasing nangyari? Next, Jules. It should be emphasized that the law of SALIN, ito yung sinasabi natin kanina, aims to curtail the acquisition of unexplained wealth. Thus, in several cases, where the source of undisclosed wealth was properly accounted for, miski nakalimutan mo mailagay, pag na-explain mo naman kung saan galing yung mga wealth mo, if it is properly accounted for, the court deemed the same as as explained wealth which the law does not penalize. Ang penalize lang dito sa SAL-in law na ito, yung unexplained wealth. Pag ma-explain mo naman kung saan galing yung mga properties mo, anong sources of income, explained wealth na yan. Hindi daw yan pinipenalize ng batas yung unexplained wealth. What we are after is the unexplained wealth. Next, Jules. Yun na pala yun. Last na pala yun. Okay, end of the slideshow. So, pambungad, walang kinalaman muna sa responsibility, accountability, and liability. But that, ladies and gentlemen, emphasizes public office and public trust, and emphasizes also that not all failure to declare the assets are offense na kinoconsider dishonesty at saka misconduct. Dito kasi sa case na ito, na sinahid natin kanina, na-explain niya, galing daw kasi yung kanyang sasakyan na hindi na-include doon sa kanyang salin, galing daw kasi sa kanyang husband, pagmamay-ari ng kanyang husband, nakaligtaan lamang na ma-include. Pangalawa, yung shares of stock daw, may kaya rin naman daw yung mga anak niya. Mayroong company at sa mga businesses, mayroong sources of income na, in other words. So therefore, yung mga nakaligtaang ma-include dyan, sample daw muna ako sa ma-include sa kanyang salin, na-explain daw niya where the sources are coming from. So hindi daw yun punishable offense under the law. However, the Supreme Court must re-emphasize that in that case, only meted the penalty of parang suspension yata of 1 month na converted into 1 month salary. So hindi siya automatically nag-result into dismissal from public service. So, mamaya-maya, yun na, responsibility, accountability, and liability. Can you share my screen na? Can you see my screen na? Yan, hindi pa yata. Stop share. Tapos, share ulit. How about that? Okay. Production, can you see my screen na? Okay, in the meantime, teaser pa lang yun sa ating mga discussion. I-standby ko lang muna itong share screen ko para baka minsan mamaya-maya magkaka-effective na yung share screen ko. In the meantime, balikan natin yung mga pag-greetings natin dyan sa ating Facebook page live. Baka naman meron kayong comment. Remember, sabi ko, wala munang actual case na question kasi i-resolve yan kung saan yang nakabinbin yung case nyo. Yung mga appeals nyo ng COA, wag nating pag-usapan dito. We will just have a generic friendly discussion. Mag-comment lang kayo dito. Ayan. Nay, pakibati naman sa ating mga viewers live sa ating FB page. Pasok, Nay.
Good morning! Isang masaya at masigabong at malakas na pagbati para kay Jeremias Barcenas, ang City Assessor ng Toledo City, kay Ma'am Adeli Idanyo ng Konsolasyon, kay Maribel Obot ng LGU Dimiao sa Bohol, kay Juliet Baguchay ng Siquijor. Sabi ni Ma'am Cecilyn Andrade, good morning to all. At sabi naman ni Ginalyn Isling Resinis, watching from City Treasurers of CDO, good morning. So I think this is from Cagayan de Oro, CDO. At saka may tanong, attorney, sabi ni Ma'am Julie Santos, when can we collect 10 years back taxes and 5 years back taxes only? Tanong niya lang yan. Baka maano natin sa susunod.
I-part natin. Ano ngayon? When can we collect?
When can we collect 10 years back taxes and 5 years back taxes only?
Okay.
Kailan daw siya pwede makakolekta ng 10 years and 5 years?
I-discuss natin in the succeeding episodes yan. Gawan na natin ang presentation.
Yes. Suki natin yan, Tol, si Ma'am Julie. Hello, Ma'am Julie. Good morning.
Ma'am Julie.
Okay. Okay. Continue tayo sa shout-out. Shout-out kay Michelle Mamitis Villafuerte ng Cebu Provincial Capital Assessor's Office, kay Lorifi Pagdalian ng Toledo City, kay Lorna Dagatan Morales, ang Acting City Treasurer ng Danao City, kay Rosemary Villacampa Tapan, ang Municipal Treasurer ng Lazizi Quijor, kay Maria Adele Herrera Idanyo, kay Noel Enriquez. Shout out kay Jed Chin. At saka isang pagbati rin ng happy birthday to my friend si Jaime Sumagang ng Cordoba, Cebu. Ang Cordoba, Cebu is wherein you can find the famous bakasi. So kung gusto nyo ng larang na bakasi, punta kayo sa Cordoba. Sabi ni Sir, malapit na daw matapos yung bridge na nag-connect. I think that is the third bridge sa Cebu at saka yung Mactan Island. So pag malapit na, mas malapit kung doon ka dadaan sa papatapos na bridge kasi malapit na lang yun sa Bakasi. So kung gusto niyong kumain, punta ng Cordoba. Hanapin niyo si Jaime Sumagang. Back to you, Norms.
Ayan.
Norms,
hindi pa daw ako
gusto ko lang i-congratulate yung bagong appointed na municipal treasurer natin coming from the municipality of Alcantara, Cebu. So congratulations to Mr. Edison Incipido. He will be taking his oath today at the regional office.
Okay.
So anytime.
Congratulations, sir.
Okay, he will be joining us to take his oath. So this has been a long-waited appointment. Okay? So medyo talagang tuwang-tuwa si Mayor and as well as the appointee. Okay? Na na-receive, umabot na din yung at last. Okay? Nandito na yung
years.
appointment niya. Congratulations, Mr. Edison Incipido. Back to you, Torns.
Yes, congratulations. Okay, production team na lang yung mag-share screen. Punta tayo doon sa slide na accountability production. Ayan, kabinding tanong natin tatlo. Nawala ng collector yung kanyang collection of the day. Sinong accountable, sinong responsible, at saka sinong liable. Doon sa cellphone na naka-MR sa kanya, nawala, na-pickpocket, liable ba siya doon? At saka yung laptop na pinahiram kay focal persons, wala pa rin nag-comment hanggang ngayon. Yung katanungan ni Ma'am Soki natin, itatakol natin in some other episodes kasi we will devote this muna for responsibility, accountability, and liability. May nagtanong sa akin dito, Ardi. May expiration date ba daw yung marriage contract? May expiration date? Wala yata. Bakit kayo nagtanong kung may expiration date ba ang marriage contract? So, exclusive lang muna dito sa kapihan natin yung tanong about local treasury and assessment operations. But by the way, before mag-share screen ng ating production team, may proposal talaga na lagyan sana ng expiration date yung marriage contract. May ewan ko sa ang Congress na yon, may proposal na lagyan ng 5 years day, 5-year expiration period yung marriage contract. Hindi na-approve, hindi napasa. Tanong mo, Ardi, bakit hindi napasa?
Torns, if you have your way, will you pass that law or will you oppose the law?
Sinasabi nila kasi pag mayroong expiration date yung marriage contract, wala nang gasto sa abogado para sa annulment, declaration of nullity of marriage. So ganyan, proper daw yung proposal na yun. 5 years expiration date, renewable every 5 years thereafter. Hindi pumasa, Adi. Alam mo bakit, Adi? Anong reason bakit hindi pumasa? Kasi daw, yung 5 years, masyadong mataas na daw. Ayan, wala munang mga question ng ganyan. Exclusive lang muna itong kapihan natin sa mga local treasury and assessment operations. Go ahead, production, sa share screen natin. Ito na yung pinaka-meat topic. So, we will devote 2 episodes lang yata nito sa responsibility, accountability, and liability para ma-expound further, ma-emphasize further yung mga principles under the law. We promise you, hindi kami mag-overtime ng medyo mahaba-haba. Okay, first, ano ba yung sinasabing responsible officer na yan? So, sino bang kinikonsider na responsible officer? Responsible person. Yan kasi yung nababasa natin sa audit findings. Mr. So-and-so is responsible officer. Very simply, being responsible is being answerable for the discharge of a duty. Meaning, you have to exercise prudently yung authority na binigay sa'yo. Pag responsible ka, mayroon kang authority. So, vague concept muna, ha? So, answerable to perform a duty. Mayroon kang authority. Vague mo na yan. But next slide, ma-explain na further. Next. Ayan. Next. Okay. Ayan. Under the law, for example, di ba? We center in muna doon sa principle about responsible officer. Under the law, yung heads of government offices are responsible officer and they are, di ba? Sabi natin, being responsible is answerable. Answerable to the duty assigned to you to look after. In short, medyo may power to supervise tayo. Responsible officer nga authority over subordinate persons. Kalimitan, yung mga responsible officers are heads of government offices or department heads. Kasi nga, pag mayroong authority tayo, it assumes na we are supervising mga subordinates. Mayroong mga tao sa under us that we are supervising. We are responsible for them. So, under the law, heads of government agencies are responsible officers and they are to take care that all resources of the government entrusted to their agencies are managed, expended, and utilized in accordance with the laws and regulation and should be safeguarded against loss or wastage. Responsible officer. Next slide. Yan. So ano ba yung responsibility of local treasurers? Take note muna we are just talking first of responsible officer. Sabi ng definition, answerable, may authority ka. Pag sinasabing may authority ka, ibig sabihin, you have some persons under you, may subordinate of personnel ka. So, you are answerable to take charge, to supervise them. May authority ka kasi. So, ano ba yung responsibility of a local treasurer? So, under the law, yung local treasurer are immediately and primarily responsible for all government funds and properties under his custody. Emphasis of funds and properties under his custody. Kasi minsan, although you are responsible officer, you may not be on actual possession or custody of property of funds. So, emphasis muna on that. Later on, ma-emphasize natin bakit kailangan yung distinction na yan. Now, the local treasurers are also responsible over treasury employees kasi nga may authority siya, responsible, answerable siya for his or her subordinates. So, local treasury personnel are directly entrusted with custody. Possession of funds or property shall be immediately responsible to the local treasurer. So this actually cites a scenario wherein some local treasury personnel, for example, collectors, are entrusted with custody or possession of funds. So in the meantime, wala pa kay treasurer yung actual custody of or possession of funds. So yung accountability may be somewhere else, but yung responsibility nonetheless, miski walang actual possession or custody si treasurer, responsible kasi siya over his subordinate. So, ano ba yung standard of liability pag sinasabi nating si responsible officer magiging liable? So, maya-maya i-discuss natin yan. In the meantime, papasadahan muna natin ano ba yung accountability on the other hand. Kasi na-i-discuss natin what responsibility is. Responsibility being answerable. You have authority. You have to take charge that those subordinates under you are performing those entrusted with the actual custody of funds are performing in accordance with the law. Now, ano ba yung accountability? Yes, next. Accountability on the other hand, ina-highlight natin dito yung possession or custody of government funds or property. Next slide please. Mas na-emphasize ng next slide. Okay. Who are accountable persons? Remember, responsible persons, yung those who have authorities over some subordinates, answerable sila to discharge the duties that to see to it that those under them are performing in accordance with law. So, they may be responsible officer but they don't have actual possession of property or funds. In the meantime, sina accountable officers are those officers who have actual possession or custody of government funds or property. Nakita niyo na yung difference? Si responsible officer, may imputed authority siya, may role under the law to perform siya, but he may not have actual possession or custody of funds. So yung may actual possession or custody of funds, siya yung accountable officer. Nakita niyo yung kaibahan ng responsible at saka accountable officer. Now, yung degree of liability, yung weight o yung hinahanap, what we are looking after, na sinasabing liable si accountable officer is where the losses are attributed to negligence or yung illegal or improper disposal. Mai-discuss yan mamaya. Next slide, please. Yan. So, therefore, balik. Isa. Yung may local treasurer being responsible officer, di ba? Na-emphasize natin. May authority kasi si local treasurer over his or her subordinates kasi. Si local treasurer shall exercise good father of a family. Ito yung good father of family. Supervision over accountable officers under his or her supervision. Otherwise, pag hindi daw ka daw nag-exercise ng good father of family, you shall be jointly liable with them. Solidary yung liability. So, ano ba yung good father of family? So, for example, pag itong property na ito, pag-aari ng LGU, what proper care should you exercise? So, the proper care you should exercise that it is as if sa iyo yung property na yan. What circumstances will you exercise na as if kung sa iyo yung funds ng LGU, ano ba yung gagawin nyo to safeguard that property? Good father of family. As if how you take care of your children, paano mo i-safeguard yung mga anak mo. That is the same way supervision over accountable persons directly under the local treasurers. Ayan, nawala na ako. Okay. Now, hihimay-himayin na natin yung responsibility, accountability, and liability. Now, the accountability of local treasurers over government funds and properties and such other funds and properties which may be entrusted by office or to his office by law by other competent authority. So, emphasis, magiging accountable officer si local treasurer, balik muna production, magiging accountable, di ba? Accountability yan, hindi yan responsibility. Pag mayroong entrusted by law or by any competent authority, yung actual funds or actual custody of funds sa kanyang office. Pag entrusted to his office, yung funds, actual custody of funds, magiging accountable officer siya. Kanina kasi, sinasabi natin, responsible officer siya, pag wala siyang actual custody, yung actual custody nasa ibang subordinate niya, so yung responsibility niya is to take charge na exercise due diligence of a godfather family, na itong si accountable officer na may actual possession of custody of public fund should do this or that in accordance with the law. Next. Tuloy-tuloy muna natin bago tayo mag-proceed sa example. Next. Okay. Now, next. Ayan. Even those, ayan, lumampas naman. Even those, the treasurer are even accountable for properties, real or personal, owned by the LGU and granted in form of donation, reparation, assistance, and joint and counterpart of joint project. Sabi nga natin kanina sa na-discuss natin, pag yung actual, yung custody of funds and properties entrusted by law sa treasurer, accountable din siya doon. In case ito yung medyo reklamo ng ating mga treasurers at treasurers. Sir, pag wala kasing GSO, kami yung nagiging property custodian. Ito yan. So, in case the LGU failed to create a possession of general services, siya yung property custodian. Pag property custodian, in-assume ng batas na you are in actual possession of the properties. Accountable person na naman si treasurer. Next slide, please. Ayan, production, next slide. Ayan. Okay. Accountability of local treasurer over documents, di ba? May mga accountable forms tayo dyan. Entrusted to the treasurer yan. So, accountable pa rin dyan sa forms na yan. Unless, of course, makikita natin minsan na yung accountability lies somewhere else. Bakit? Minsan kasi sinasabi ng Supreme Court ruling na it does not necessarily mean that if you are responsible officer, you are automatically accountable officer because minsan you are not in actual possession or custody of public funds or property. Next, may explain yan mamaya. Next. Hmm. Next. The head of the agency. Yan, balik muna. Isang balikan muna kasi yung mga pa-shoutout natin dumadami na. The head of the agency, yan, responsible. But the persons entrusted with the possession or custody are immediately responsible to the head of the agency kasi yung may immediate possession or custody of funds, yun yung tinatawag, yung number 2, yung tinatawag accountable officers. However, miski si head of agency, wala siyang actual possession or custody of the property or funds, tinatawag pa rin siyang responsible officer kasi he has the authority to supervise yung mga subordinates. So, yung authority niya, dapat daw i-exercise niya diligence of a good father of family to see to it that yung mga subordinate who have actual possessions of the funds or custody are doing things in accordance with law. So punta na tayo sa liability na establish natin na minsan yung responsibility ay nasa isang person but yung accountability minsan wala sa kanya. Yung accountability lies somewhere else. So ano ba yung tinatawag nating liability? Automatic ba pag responsible officer? Automatic ba liable ka na? Automatic ba pag accountable officer? Automatic liable ka na? Balikan natin yan mamaya-maya para hindi magtampo. Magpa-shoutout muna tayo dyan sa ating mga pag-greeting sa comment section. Pasok na, Miss Jan Anabilia.
Isang shoutout pa rin. Isang napaka-lakas na shoutout kay Rusil Ibanez ng Toledo City. Kay Ma'am Vilma Zaldua, sabi niya, "Great morning everyone. Greetings from LGU San Remigio." Si Ma'am Vilma Zaldua po ay siya po yung municipal assessor ng San Remigio, Cebu. Shout out pa rin kay Jeff Bahaw, the city assessor of Karkar, kay Romeo S. Ramosa II of Thailand. June, thank you. Kay Linda Inday Namon Montilla, the former city mayor of Tacorong.
Shout out.
Shout out
Mayor.
po.
Good morning, Mayor.
Shout out kay Mayor ng Tacorong, kay Honorable City Mayor Angelo O. Montilla. Shout out rin kay Yudi Sarakadag ng PTO.
Ay, may sinasabi siya din ay.
Nagparamdam.
Paramdam na.
Oo, nagparamdam.
Siya lang yung hindi pumapansin.
Welcome to me.
Siya lang yung hindi pumapansin. Ang tagal nang tumatawag ni Mayor.
Pinapansin ko na siya ngayon. Shout out sa iyo, Mayor.
Hope to see you soon, Mayor.
Sir?
Hope to see you soon. Sabihin, hope to see you soon, Mayor.
Sir, pwede na ba, tumatanggap na ba kayo ng LSI dyan sa Tacorong? Gusto ko na hong bumisita sa Tacorong para sa magkita na tayo, Mayor. Shout out po kay Yudisa Rakadag ng PTO Kamsor, kay Josephine Talisayan ng Maria Sikihor, kay Yarim, the Municipal Treasurer of Compostela, Cebu, kay Grace Arpon, Tapan ka na ma'am, the Municipal Treasurer of the Tabugon, kay Charlie Daguplo, na Municipal Assessor of Sierra Bulyones, Bohol. Shout out pa rin kay Alilaw ng Toledo City, kay Jesosa Diposa ng Gihulngan City, the City Treasurer, kay Bersilia Soriano Kidato ng Paso Masbate, ay kay Engineer Ramil Archaga ng Talibon, Bohol. Shout out kay Marie Ave. Shout out sa papa ni Julis na nanonood ngayon doon
sa malaking screen niya.
Calbayog, Leyte. Shout out pa rin kay Edwin Villanueva, kay Merisit Caballero, kay June Carlito. And back to you, Torns.
May mga pag-greetings card eh.
Yes, I would like to greet and say thank you for watching us. Former Vice Mayor Ray Calooy from the municipality of Libagon, Southern Leyte. So, he's the owner of yung sinasabi ko, willing to sponsor yung founder or CEO ng RNC Marketing Philippines. Ria Noemi Food
May
Products.
office of sponsorship
Friend
na.
ko siya ni Ate Bren. So, thank you po for Sir Ray for joining our kapihan.
Lumi-level up na yung kapihan natin natin. May offers of sponsorship na. Sige, pag-usapan ng production team yan. Baka magiging Kuya Will na tayo dito. Bigyan ng jacket yan! Yan yun. Pag may sponsorship na ng mga jacket. Okay, patuloy natin na shoutout pala sa full force ulit. Yung City Assessor at saka City Treasurer ng Danau City. Si Ma'am Lorna Dagatan at saka si Sir Cesar Sabas. Shoutout din sa kaklase kong mayor. Yan, si Attorney Joven Mondego. Napuntahan ni Ardi last month. Yata yun, no? Ng Middle End. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning. Boss, good morning, boss. Sige, production team, tuloy tayo sa ating discussion. This time, doon na tayo sa liability. We have now learned what responsibility is, being unresponsible, answerable. Kasi mayroon authority na binigay sa'yo. Pag may authority ka, it assumes na may sinusupervise kang some subordinate officers under you. Pag accountable officer ka naman, ikaw yung mismong may hawak or may custody ng public funds or property. So it may happen that you are responsible officer but the accountability lies somewhere else. Kasi nga, ang hinahanap sa accountable officer is yung actual possession or custody of public funds or property. So ano ba tong sinasabi nating liability? Palagi na lang kasi sir, pag ina-identify na ako ay responsible or accountable person, liable daw. Pag sinasabi na naman ng kuwa, sir, liable ako, hinahabla ako doon sa ombudsman. Kasi daw, klarong-klaro daw sa audit findings na sinasabi ng kuwa na the local treasurer is liable for the loss of the money or property. Ganyan ba yun? Ano ba yung sinasabi ng liability? Balik muna, sir. Ayan. Ano ba yung definition? Liability daw is a personal obligation arising from an audit disallowance or charge in the course of audit that may be satisfied through payment or restitution. So yan lang pala yung definition ng liability. Why I am saying yan lang pala yun. It is a personal obligation that may be satisfied through payment or restitution. Yun yung binabayaran nating mga disallowance, payment or restitution. So hindi sinasabi, pag kuha yung nagsasabi na liable si responsible officer, liable si accountable officer, ibang usapan yung liability under the administrative proceeding. Kasi nga dito sa liability, when it comes to COA post-audit finding, masasatisfy lang niya through payment at restitution. Iba naman kasi yung degree of evidence na hinahanap sa administrative case, di ba? Substantial evidence ba yata yun? Nangangalawang yata ako sa administrative law ko. So, doon sa administrative proceeding, naghahanap pa ng substantial evidence. So, hindi ibig sabihin na sinasabi ng kuwa, liable ka na. Kasi accountable officer ka. Administratively, liable ka rin. Kasi nga, you will still have to undergo due process proceeding. May hearing pa yan, pa-answerin ka pa. At saka iba yung hinahanap na liability doon. Ang weight of evidence is substantial evidence. Correct me if I'm wrong. Baka naiba dito, no? So, yung liability, when it comes to COA, yung sinasabi lang, bayaran mo yan, i-restitute mo yan kasi may personal obligation ka. So, ang layo naman yatang sasabihin pag liable daw, ombudsman-nable na daw din. Next slide please, production. Ayan. Ang saya-saya sa aming chatroom, hindi nyo lang nakikita. Ang saya-saya sa aming chatroom ngayon. I wish I could share kung ano yung nasa chatroom. Okay? Nawala na to tuloy yung production team. Okay. Now, tanong ko. Yan yung tanong natin talaga. Does responsibility and accountability automatically result in liability? Ang sagot, next. Next. Okay, ito muna. Sometimes kasi, responsibility and accountability are lodged in two different person. Before we address that question na, pareho lang ba yun? Automatic ba yun? Sometimes the actual management of public resources may be vested to other officer or the treasurer in that case. While the agency or the agency head is merely responsible to take care of such resources that are managed by officer or treasurer in accordance with law. No? So ito yung sinasabi natin. You may be a responsible officer but you may not be an accountable officer kasi wala sa'yo ang actual possession. Nonetheless, miski hindi ikaw ang nakawala ng government funds or property, but if it should be found out that you have not exercised responsibility, meaning yung due diligence of a good father of family, you have not exercised the imputed authority, yung authority na binigay sa'yo, to supervise your subordinates, magiging responsible ka rin. Solidary nga yung responsibility. Liable ka rin. Solidary nga yung liability. Next, please. Next. Ayan. Next. Okay. Next. The measure of liability when it comes to responsible officers. So, kailan ba nating masasabi? When can we say that responsible officers are liable? Ito na yung tanong natin Hindi automatic yung liability na naka-attach sa responsible officer. Ito yung hinahanap, the measure of responsibility. The measure of liability entrusted to fiscal responsibility is the degree of their failure to exercise the diligence of a good father of a family in the supervision of those who are actually accountable for the government funds and property. So in this case, sa ating example, for example, balik tayo. Mayroong collection si collector. Naka-short siya. Sino yung accountable officer? Sino yung responsible officer? At saka sino yung liable? So in this case, mayroon bang actual possession si treasurer when it comes to that collection? So ano yung comment nyo? Ang hirap nitong virtual, walang response from the field. So mag-comment kayo. So meron bang actual possession si treasurer when it comes to the collection of that collector? Pag ang sabi nyo wala, ibig sabihin walang hindi accountable officer si treasurer kasi wala siyang actual possession or custody of the funds collected. So in the meantime, sino yung mayroong actual possession? Sino yung accountable officer? Of course, si collector. Unless of course mayroon ng RCD na na-turn over na properly. In the meantime, si collector pa rin yung accountable officer na mayroong actual possession of the collection of that day. So in that case, mayroon bang liability pa rin si treasurer? Maaring wala, maaring hindi. Why? Because although the local treasurer is not accountable officer in this example, he is still responsible officer. So ano ba yung degree of measure of liability sa responsible officer? So tingnan natin, nag-exercise ba ng diligence of a good father of family si treasurer in supervising his subordinates? Kaya minsan, ini-emphasize natin, hinahanapan natin. I have heard 3 administrative cases yata, actual hearing talaga. Binigyan ako ng opportunity ng bureau na ako yung mag-conduct ng actual hearing. Ang hinahanap kasi natin is ganito. Again, this is just generic friendly discussion. Nag-exercise ba si treasurer ng diligence of a good father of a family in supervising those subordinates under him? So, what does that mean? For example lang hindi ito hard and fast rule. Nag-issue ba siya ng memorandum na collection should be turned over and deposited daily? Mayroon man siyang mga daily meetings emphasizing o nagkakandak ba siya ng mga supervised audit over his subordinates? Those circumstances may show supervision over the subordinates. As a responsible officer, those may show that you may not be liable later on because you have exercised diligence of a good father family in supervising your accountable officer. Next slide, Jules. So under the law, the heads of government, next ayan, no. So under the law, yun muna. Okay, yun muna, yung dalawa. So under the law, yung mga responsible officer, yung mga department heads, yung heads of government agencies, should see to it that the funds under the accountable officers are safeguarded against loss or wastage through improper or illegal disposition. So, sa kanya, as responsible, yung role niya is to supervise na hindi nagasta yung property ng yung funds ng accountable officer not in accordance with the law. So, next Judge. So, in the meantime, si accountable officer, ano ba yung measure of liability? Kasi nakita natin, si responsible officer, yung measure of liability, pag hindi siya nag-exercise ng diligence of a good father of a family, magiging liable rin siya, although wala siyang actual possession of the funds or property. Now, si accountable officer, sinasabi natin, ito yung officer who have actual possession of the funds or property. Sa ating example, si collector mismo. Magiging liable siya pag mayroong unlawful deposit, na-deposit yung collection doon sa personal account. Unlawful use, piyesta kasi. Yung collection, pinambili ng baboy para magpalit yun. Or application thereof. Liable agad si accountable officer pag manaan dito itong tatlong instances dito sa number 1. She or he can also be liable for the actual possession of funds or property pag mayroong negligence attributable in keeping with the funds. Sinasabi ko nga minsan yung mga collector natin, yung field collections niya, far lang area, ang lalayo sa poblasyon, naghahabal-habal lang. Nag-motor taxi lang. Along the way, na-rob si collector. Liable ba siya? Kasi accountable pa siya doon sa possession ng actual funds or ng collection niya. So liable pa siya. Was the riding of habal-habal considered negligence on her part? Yan kasi yung measure of liability. Pag sinasabi natin, bakit ka kasi naghabal-habal? Dapat kasi nagpasundo ka ng mga ganito, may security ka sana, ganito. O that would amount to negligence, yung pag-ride niya ng ordinary means of transportation. Remember, you are in actual possession of government funds, hindi sa iyo yan. So, extra care. Hindi ka dapat negligent. So, there may be instances that the riding of ordinary means of transportation can be considered as negligent on the part of accountable officer, resulting to his or her liability. So, therefore, establish na natin maaring hindi automatic yung liability although you are a considered responsible officer. Hinahanapan lang ng batas na you have exercised due diligence of a good father family in the supervision of your subordinates. Kasi nga, responsible officer, you have authority to supervise your subordinate. However, yung mga accountable officer, siya yung may actual possession of funds or property. Pag nakita na you are negligent in the actual funds of in the actual possession of or custody of public funds or property, nagiging negligent ka resulting to the loss of that property or funds, you are liable. So to recap, si responsible officer, yung measure of liability is have he failed to exercise diligence in the supervision. Si accountable officer is have he failed to exercise the correct diligence or had he been negligent in the possession of property, or the loss was as a result of unlawful deposit, use, or application, magiging liable. Next. Ano ba kasi itong negligence? Naputol ba tayo sa Facebook? Negligence is the want of care required by the circumstances. Napaka-vague pa rin. Sa example ko was riding of habal-habal kasi ang layo ng collection place bago mabalik sa munisipyo, bago mapunta sa bangko he have to ride some means of transportation, hindi ba accessible, naghabal-habal si collector, na-rob siya, so liable ba siya din? So sinasabi natin you measure the negligence. Pag sinasabi natin negligent yung pag-ride ng habal-habal na yan, liable. Dinidefine dito yung negligent. Hindi ko pa rin maintindihan. Ano ba yung negligent? So, buti na lang, mayroong Supreme Court case expounding further on the principle of negligence. Ito muna, facts muna, bago tayo natin pasadahan yung mga pa-shoutout. Next, Jules. Next. Yan. Hindi ko sinite yung citation muna. hindi ko nilagay yung caption or title ng case kasi we are of a nationwide viewership. Baka kasi kilala niyo yung mga parties to the case, yung citation niya na lang yung linagay ko. GR number 143403. This is a Supreme Court case dated January 22, 2003. Ito yung loss of a government-issued cellphone. Remember, sinasabi na si accountable officer magiging liable pag negligent siya resulting to the loss of property or funds. Remember? But hinahanap natin ano yung ibig sabihin ng negligent. No? Dito, anong nangyari sa case nito? Next. Now, galing lang ng meeting si respondent dito, si accountable officer, si public officer. Galing siya ng meeting. He was, when after the meeting, he went back to her official station doon sa Caloocan. Pabalik doon, sumakay siya ng train, yung LRT. Sumakay siya ng train. Next. In the meantime, while on board the LRT, her handbag was slashed and its content was stolen by unidentified person. Hindi pala pickpocketed yung term kasi stolen. Pickpocket, pag yung ninakaw, pocket, ito cellphone. Yung taser natin, pickpocketed yung nagamit na term ko. So, stolen yung kanyang cellphone kasi na-slash yung bag niya doon while riding the LRT. Next. Next. Among the items taken doon sa kanyang possession doon sa bag na nasa bag is a government-issued cellular phone which is the subject of this case. Yung cellphone na issue, naka-MR sa kanya, pag-aari ng gobyerno, wala. Kasi nga, na-slash yung bag while riding the LRT galing sa meeting. Next. Next. Ayan. Okay. Now, she applied for a relief from the accountability of such property. Next. Ayan. However, the resident auditor denied the request on the ground that he lacked the diligence. Ito na yung sinasabi natin kanina. Hinahanap natin, ano ba yung negligence na yan? Na si accountable officer, automatic magiging liable pag negligence siya. Sabi ng auditor, no, you should not be relieved from accountability because you lack the required diligence in the custody of the government property. Now, first question muna. Ayan. Yung makapag-shoutout dyan, may utang kaming mga mug sa iyo. Wala na kasing mug kami ngayon. Nag-stop printing muna kami. So, yung unang makapag-shoutout, dalawang question muna. First, first 5 na lang muna. Wala munang mug daw kasi sabi ng production team, stop printing pa kami. Okay. Sige, katuwaan na lang. Si petitioner dito, yung may hawak ng cellphone na kaka-attend lang ng meeting. How can we classify her? Is she responsible officer or accountable officer? First question yan. Pangalawa, if established na responsible siya or accountable officer, magiging considered as negligent ba yung pagsakay niya sa train na yon? Dapat sana nagtaxi siya o nagpahatid siya ng official vehicle. Nawala tuloy yung cellphone. Negligent siya. So, dalawang question. Was the riding of the LRT negligent on her part, resulting to liability? And first question was, ano ba siya, responsible officer or accountable officer? Mga pa-shoutouts muna dyan. Balikan natin yung chief ng ating Treasury Division para sa mga pag-greetings. Pasok, Miss Jonah Nabila. Baka may comment naman doon sa mga tanong natin. Basahin nyo rin. Nay, pasok, Nay.
Okay. Once, continue tayo sa shout-out. Shout-out para sa assessing officer ng Madrid de Cebu, kay Engineer Julius Chin. Shout-out kay Rio Maria Josefina ng Toledo City, kay Hernan Soliano ng Paso Masbate, kay Andrew Peter Jr. ng Gihulngan City, kay Heidi Macapobre Corbo ng Toledo City, kay Drulia Rosalito ng Toledo City. Shout out pa rin po, Sigaw Palabas kung sa Tagalog, kay Belen Ormega, kay Hilda Garsula, kay Norberto Siono, Brenda Liamedo, kay Mercy Santos, at kay Engineer Roger Servo. ang Market Supervisor ng Takurong City. Good morning, Engineer Serbo.
Good morning.
Back to you, Attorney.
Baka may pa-shoutout si RD pag-greetings sa mga fans.
Okay, so good afternoon, good morning lahat ng mga nanonood.
Lahat na. Okay.
Especially yung taga Masbate.
Ito,
Oh, by the way,
mag-overtime na.
si Sir Aldin is joining also with us. So nandiyan si Sir Aldin.
Idol Aldin.
BLJ 5.
Idol Aldin, nahihirapan na si Sir doon sa Central. Iniiwan mo kasi Idol Aldin. Kawawa naman yung Lao Division namin doon sa Central kasi konti na lang sila doon. Ito si Idol Aldin, iniiwan doon sa Central. Okay. Balik tayo sa share screen natin. Mag-overtime kasi tayo. Hindi natin i-expound yung ibang situational cases. Ito lang muna. Pang last discussion na lang ito. Remember, the case was, before we left off with the shoutouts at pag-greeting, tinanong natin na sinabi natin yung accountable persons, yung mga actual possessions or custody of funds or property, magiging liable pag mayroong negligence on their part. Isa sa mga ground. Other ground would be the illegal or wastage, improper use, improper deposit, and so on and so forth. Pero dito muna tayo sa negligent. Liable daw si accountable person pag mayroong negligent on her part. So ano ba yung negligence na yan? Hindi natin maintindihan. So sinight natin itong Supreme Court case decision na ito. This is about a public officer na nag-attend ng meeting, going back towards her office, sumakay siya ng train, and slash yung bag niya, na-stall yung cellphone, government-issued cellphone, nawala. Sinasabi ng auditor, you are liable because you are negligent. You lack the diligence in the custody of the public property. So yun na nga. Ano ba si ma'am dito? Accountable officer or responsible officer? Of course, firstly, accountable officer siya. Kasi nga, sabi nga, government-issued cellphone eh. So siya yung na mayroong actual possession and custody of public property. So accountable officer siya. So ano ba yung measure of liability ng mga accountable officer? First, katong illegal, improper use, application, deposit, and this is the most important. Second, if there is negligence on the part of the accountable officer resulting to the loss. So, magiging liable siya. Dito, accountable officer si ma'am. Liable ba siya? First, establish muna natin. Was the riding of the train negligent on her part? Dapat sana nag-taxi na lang siya. O dapat sana nagpahatid na lang siya. Ayan, tuloy na wala yung cellphone. Ganyan ba yun? Para masabi natin negligent si ma'am. Okay, next. Reaction. Next slide, please. Next slide. Ayan. So the crucial question, sabi ng Supreme Court to ask, is whether the petitioner should be deemed negligent when she opted to board that train. Pareho kami ng tanong ng Supreme Court. So was that considered negligence daw? Yung pagsakay niya ng train? Sabi ng Supreme Court, no, of course no. Yung iba dyan, may actual case na. Sabi ko wag mo nang itanong yung mga actual case kasi baka pangunahan natin yung mga ruling ng kuha natin. Nakakahiya naman sila yung may authority. Yung actual case ng ibang probinsya natin dito sa Region 7, sinasabi, sir, sumakay ng tricycle. Nakasuksok dito yung cellphone dito sa bulsa. Nahulog. Is the riding of tricycle negligent on our part? Dito train kasi yung pinag-usapan. Pero yung principle, tingnan natin. Sabi ng Supreme Court, no, this is not considered negligence. The riding of a public transport, gawin muna natin public transport per se, should not be denounced as a negligent act that will result in liability. More so, under in the circumstances of this case, where in which the petitioner mode of transit was influenced by time and money consideration. Kasi nga, train, madali lang. Nagmamadali kasi si ma'am. Kinoconsider ng Supreme Court yan. At saka, kinoconsider yung money consideration. Buti si Sir Julius may sasakyan na kanya. Pag kami, wala kaming sasakyan, mapipilitan kaming sumakay ng public transport. Pag yung sasakyan namin nasira, yung private cars namin nasira, mapipilitan talaga kaming sumakay ng public transport. Next, Jules. May isa. May isa doon sa baba. Again, the possession of a cellular phone would not and should not hinder one from boarding an LRT. Miski daw may naka-issue na government-issued phone sa iyo, it should not stop you from riding public transport. Gamitin ko muna yung public transport. Principle lang muna. Not necessarily LRT lang. Kasi wala kaming train dito sa Region 7. So, the possession of government funds or property, hindi muna funds, yung property na cellphone should not hinder us to ride public transport. Next. Next. Ayan. Because, ito yung money consideration, because daw of her relatively low possession and pay, she was not expected to have her own vehicle or ride a taxi cab. Hindi ko sabi ng Supreme Court. So, porque ba't may possession ka ng government property, kailangan ka mag-taxi? Sinasabi ng Supreme Court, no, money consideration, ang baba lang kasi ng sweldo ni ma'am. Neither had the government granted her the use of any vehicle. Ito pa, biniblame pa tuloy yung government. Bakit kasi hindi nyo binigyan ng government vehicle or hinatid man lang doon sa kanyang meeting? Ayan tuloy, napilitang sumakay ng train. Negligence is the omission to do something which is a reasonable man, guided by consideration, would ordinarily regulate the conduct of human affairs, would do, or the doing of something which a prudent man and reasonable one would do. So, under the circumstances kasi, sabi ng Supreme Court, nagmamadali, time element, low salary grade lang, walang pera, hindi pa hinatid ng government-issued vehicle. Hindi daw dapat isihin si ma'am. Next. Next. Negligence daw is the want of care required by the circumstances. The diligence with which the law requires the individual at all times to govern his conduct varies with the nature of the situation in which he is placed and the importance of the act which he is to perform. So, maaari kasi ito yung mga particular facts and circumstances na may not be applied to your circumstances. So, maaari kasi ikaw, ang kalalaki ng sweldo mo, government head of the agency ka, mayroon namang government-issued vehicle, hindi ka mo lang ginamit. Under the circumstances, negligent na yung pagsakay mo ng train or public transport. Dito kasi sinabi ng Supreme Court, under the circumstances, hindi yung negligence yung pagsakay niya ng train. Next. Malapit na mag 12 o'clock. Ito, pang last na lang siguro ito. Next. Skip production, wala. Ayan. The rules provide that property for use shall be utilized with the diligence of good family. And next, hindi yan. Next. Extraordinary measures. Ibig sabihin na porket may government-issued cellphone ako, I should exercise extraordinary measures. Extraordinary measures are not called for in taking care of the cellular phone while in transit. Placing it in a handbag, in a bag away from courtier's eyes, and holding onto that bag as done by the petitioner is sufficient. Yun daw paghawak niya, hindi yan negligent. Porque na lang kung linagay niya malayo sa kanya tapos hindi niya tinignan, yan daw yung negligence. The record do not show that any specific act of negligence on the part of the petitioner. It is settled rule that negligence cannot be presumed. It has to be proven. Next. Next, please. While we commend the Commission on Audit for its diligence in safeguarding the properties of the government, we nonetheless hold that a government employee who has not been proven to be culpable or negligent should not be held accountable for that loss of cell phone which was stolen from her possession while she was riding the train. Next. Ito pa. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, umabot si ma'am ng Supreme Court para lang to fight for her innocence. Kalaking gastos kaya niya. And the amount was only, to be reimbursed, was only 3,000 yung cellular phone. Minarapat ni ma'am to correct what is wrong, to defend her dignity. No, sinasabi ng Supreme Court, her dogged persistence in pursuing this appeal has not been lost to this court. We agree that in fighting for her rights, she must have spent more than the value of the lost cellular phones. Hence, we can only applaud her for being true to her calling as an educator and a role model for the rank. Sinasabi pa nga ng Supreme Court, honor, respect, and dignity are the values that she has pursued. Ano ba naman yung bayaran niyo yung 3,000? Sinasabi talaga ng Supreme Court, no, she wants to correct and to protect her dignity. Sabi ng Supreme Court, may her tribe increase. Yan. To recap, ano yung sinasabi ng case na ito? Although you are accountable officer, hindi automatic na liable ka na. So, na-prove nga natin dito, ang hinahanap ng batas para magiging liable is mayroon ka bang negligence? Pag walang negligence, hindi ka liable, miski accountable officer ka. Hindi automatic ang liability sa accountability. Dito sa ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court, the riding of the train and the holding of the bag in this way, in this manner, is not negligent to amount to liability. Ayan, ladies and gentlemen, nauubusan tayo ng oras. Isang case pa lang yun. Hindi pa nasagot yung laptop. Hindi nasagot na yung collection kasi accountable and responsible officer na delineate natin. So in the meantime, we will have a part 2, another episode to devote. Ask muna tayo ng permission ni RD kasi ang dami pa kasing Supreme Court cases at saka yung mga Arias Doctrine. Ano ba yung Arias Doctrine na yan? Ano ba yung signature mo daw appearing on the document, automatic liable ka na daw? I-discuss natin yan next episode. RD, with your permission, RD, pwede ba yan, RD, na magpa-part 2 tayo ng episode sa accountability, responsibility, and liability?
Yes, that's right. Torns, napaka-productive, insightful yung discussion natin with liability, accountability, responsibility. Actually, may mga tanong dito sa akin. Since we don't have enough time, so ibabato na lang natin ito next for the part 2. Okay? So, thank you, Torns.
Thank you for the permission, RD. In the meantime, papasadahan natin yung pang-last na pasada for this episode kasi mag-11:30 na. Yung mga pa-shoutouts at mga sigaw palakas dyan ay aso.
May pahabol pa po na shout out para kay Marilo Arante, ang Municipal Treasurer ng Aluginsan, Cebu. Sabi po ng City Treasurer ng Toledo City, Leonardo Rivera, very informative topic. BLGF, nice one, attorney. At sabi naman ni Lucia Nailon, ang Acting Municipal Treasurer ng Santa Fe, good morning all, watching from the Municipality of Santa Fe. And again, shout out po para sa pinakamamahal kong Ate Bren, si Brenda Liamedo, for my hair and makeup. And shout out din sa tatay ko, sa pinakapalangga ko nga tatay, si Julio Brennan Abelia. Love you, Bren. Back to you, Torns.
Wala bang I love you dyan? I love you dyan kay Sir Brennan? Ade?
Mukoy, Ma'am Junan, mukuyog si Sir Brennan?
Atong kuyugon, sir.
Ano ba kasi papunta itong si Miss Junan?
Okay, sige. Torns, shout out tayo sa kay Mr. Marchiner Panoy, yung kapatid ni Mr. Julius Panoy. Okay, who's just arrived from travel abroad. So he's a seaman. So wala pang chocolate siguro na dumating. Ewan ko lang. So Sir Marchiner Panoy, thank you for watching online kapihan. Beka naman.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Ay, malas naman ni sir na pasok siya doon. Bumalik siya sa Cebu. Sa Philippines na
congratulations pala sa Municipal Treasurer ng Alcantara, Cebu, kay Mr. Edison.
Ayan, congratulations. Patingin daw ng bagong treasurer. Anong mukha ng kakabagong appoint lang? Ganun pa rin ba? Congratulations, sir. At saka good morning kay Mayor sa Alcantara. Alcantara ba yun ay? Alcantara, si Mayor, friend ko rin, kaklase ko din sa isang MCLA. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we will have a part 2 or part 3 perhaps. Basta mag-recap muna tayo for the next episode on this one. We have established that responsibility and accountability are not the same thing. We have also established that although you are identified as responsible and accountable officer, you are not automatically liable. And we have also established that liability as established by COA is not automatically the liability as may be proven by the ombudsman. Ibang degree of evidence yun. RD, pabalikan natin sa RD for the closing message. RD, pasok RD.
Yes, Torns. So as treasurer and assessor, you should dapat alam niyo po yung pinagsasabi ni Tony because it is so painful when you will be caught in a situation and sasabihin niyo hindi niyo alam. Kaya we are giving this program for all of you to just listening to Attorney Tanica, marami po kayong natututunan. You're doing your job at your office, you're listening to online kapihan. So wala pong effort, di ba? Hindi ka nagbayad, hindi ka just nakikinig ka lang, di ba? So we encourage you to please join us always every Monday because meron part 2 nung discuss ni attorney. So most likely yung mga questions nyo will be answered by Attorney Tanica for this part 2. So yung hindi pa nakapag-post ng kanilang questions, please try to join us by commenting at the comment box. Okay? And surely attorney will give you the answer the best as he can. So as always, so your Attorney Tanica will always be there for you. So and of course, Miss Junan will be with us. Hopefully we will not be leaving us. So thank you, Ma'am Junan. So i-take advantage na nandito pa si Ma'am Junan. Lahat ng mga queries nyo about sa ESRA.
Yes.
So pasadahan nyo na po. So thank you so much for joining us, Torns and Junan. Take it away.
Thank you, RD. That was RD, Jesse, Joy, Dr. Lero. Ladies and gentlemen, para naman ganahan kami, comment naman kayo dyan. Tsaka i-like yung aming page, i-follow yung aming page, tsaka mag-react kayo in every episode that we have para mayroong engagement at tsaka activity.
Attorney,
Yes,
may pahabol na comment.
Oh.
May pahabol na comment. Sabi ni Romel Judy Malteso Riosa, nakakabitin talaga. Sarap sa mata at tenga yung mga insights relating to LAR. Looking forward for part 2. Thank you so much po, Director Dr. Lero, Attorney Tanica, and all the BLGF Region 7 staff. Nabitin sila RD and Attorney.
Ayan yung mga commenter din na nakakataba ng puso. Miski wag nyo kaming bayaran, nakakataba ng puso. It keeps us going, di ba, RD?
That's right, Torns.
At saka dito lang yan kay RD Dr. Lero na region nangyayari. We are proud, hindi bragging ha, we are proud to say that we have a nationwide viewership and we cater to all that local treasurers and assessors of the entire nation. Ladies and
Torns,
gentlemen,
we hope to reach out Mindanao.
Yep, hopefully.
With
Wala pa nag-comment ng Mindanao eh.
Oh, so sana Junan will bring the message to Mindanaoans.
Ayan.
Ang message na yan sa Mindanao.
Nay, may pinadalang video sa akin si Julis, Nay. May bakbakan daw doon. May mga sundalo. Ayan.
Ay, natural lang yung
Pinipigilan
bakbakan,
ko lang
Attorney.
sila, Nay. Nakakamiss
Yung
din kasi.
bakbakan sa Mindanao, natural na lang yun. Okay lang yun.
Hindi kita tinakot. Gusto ko lang hindi ka muna ma-miss namin. Ayan. That was it, ladies and gentlemen. In behalf of all the production team na mayroong pakulo daw, magbablog daw sila. Ipapakita namin dito sa aming kapihan. And in behalf of the regional director Jesse Joy Dr. Lero, this has been your host, Attorney Wilbert P. Tanica saying bye-bye.
Bye.